Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video. I'm super excited for this one because we are going to be reviewing the new Estee Lauder Double Wear Stay in Place Concealer. Now this retails for $38 US and you can find it in 30 different shades. I actually grabbed the shade 3C because I went into an Ulta Beauty store and swatched the shade that I was going to order online, which was 3N. Now 3N is a medium shade with a neutral undertone. However, when I swatched it in the store, it just looked a bit more on the yellow side, which I know I guess I could have kind of worked with, but whenever I do yellow, whether it's in my foundation or under the eyes, it just tends to look extra yellow on me, which is why I always opt for like a neutral undertone. Now 3C is a medium shade with a cool rosy undertone. The rosy part is what got me, and after I swatched it, I was like, perfect, because it is going to be kind of like a 2-in-1, a little bit of color correcting with, of course, concealing. Now this is described as being a full coverage concealer with a natural matte finish that can be worn for up to 24 hours. Now you guys know we're not going to wear it for 24 hours here, but we are going to wear it for an entire day to see what it does throughout the day, how full coverage it actually stays, whether or not it's full coverage on its own, or if you need a color corrector to assist it in order to turn it into a full coverage concealer. Because I know, especially if you're anything like me with the dark under eyes, these are just hereditary. They're there all the time, regardless of whether or not I've gotten enough sleep or if there's allergies in the air, which right now the pollen around my area is insane. Okay, it's insane, but we're surviving. But my point being, no matter what I do, they're always going to be there. So that's why I love testing out concealers, honestly, just to see what's the best option for us out there. In case you're new to my channel, that's what we do around here. Mainly, of course, I do a bunch of other reviews, but concealers, they are a must for me because it is very difficult to find a concealer that not only wears well, but that also provides full coverage and that is long lasting. So the way that we're going to be testing this out today is the way that we usually test it out. If you're new here, this is the way that we're going to do it. I'm going to be applying a color corrector underneath the concealer under the right eye, and on the left eye, it's just going to be the concealer doing all of the heavy lifting. We're going to wear it throughout the day, see how it looks, see how it feels, all that kind of good stuff. As far as how to apply it, all it says is that you should choose, in order to conceal, you should choose a shade that's closest to your foundation shade. You apply it and you either blend it out with a beauty sponge, a makeup brush, or your fingertips. Now, one thing that I really wanted to highlight with this particular concealer is the Invisiflex technology that you will find in this formula. Basically, you will find flexible polymers that move with facial expressions throughout the day, which I love. I love when foundations or concealers are like natural matte, for one, so that's why I have high hopes for this one because that's exactly what this is. But two, they don't feel dry. It's a matte concealer that is not going to feel dry, hopefully, and that will actually move with our skin throughout the day. That way it doesn't look heavy and it doesn't feel heavy. It just moves with the skin. It's really nice and flexible, but it's matte, so it's gonna stay in place. At least that's the hope. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. I am going to be color correcting the right under eye area, like I said, and I'm going to be using the Smashbox and Becca Under Eye Brightening Corrector for this. I have the shade medium. This is what she looks like, and I'm only going to grab a little bit with my ring finger and apply that onto the under eye area. All right, so I like to concentrate my color correctors to the area that needs it the most, which for me is this inner corner here. Perfect. All right. Now I'm simply going to jump off camera really quickly to apply foundation onto the entire face. I don't apply foundation onto the under eye area. I just always find that it looks and works best for me if I skip foundation underneath the eyes and instead I color correct and I apply concealer and then, you know, lightly set it if need be. So I'm going to jump off camera, apply foundation to the entire face, skipping the under eye area, and I will be right back. All right, I am back ready for concealer. This is what this particular shade looks like. So there she is. Not too cool of a shade. I find it to be a bit more on the neutral side. but you can definitely see like the rosy undertone in there, which will help with color correcting. Now the applicator is pretty unique in that it is quite wide, but it is also angled, and it does seem to be pretty flexible. So you really can get into any and all areas of the face with the applicator. This formula, this concealer line, is specifically for all over the face. So you can contour with it, you can highlight with it, you can conceal with it, anything you need. You'll just, of course, have to switch your shades depending on what you are trying to achieve. But I do really like this applicator. So we're gonna start off with the right side. And of course, I'm just gonna apply it where I need it, which is right here. I'm blending it out with my Sephora number 71 brush. This concealer brush is amazing. Love her. And look at that. Now that I am a bit older, I tend to not bring my concealer all the way up to my lash line. I keep it lower because I don't need it all the way up to the lash line in order to conceal. And that also prevents the concealer from settling into fine lines too much. So you see, this is 3C. Does it look too cool on my complexion? No, absolutely not. So that's why I chose it. And it's also very lightweight. It is really like wearing not much at all. And look at the amount of coverage that we got just from the one layer. I didn't add any additional concealer to this. Love it. Now the real test. What is it gonna look like over on the left side? So again, just applying this concealer right here, keeping it low. All right, now blending this side out. All right, so there is the one layer of concealer underneath both eyes. And can you tell the difference? Because I cannot. I can't tell the difference. I feel like both sides are really concealed. I am tempted to add just a little bit more just to see what it builds up to or what it looks like, or if you can build it up. So I am going to apply just a tiny bit more right here and right here, although the left side doesn't really need it as much as the right. I feel like with the right I was getting very high level of coverage, or I am, but adding a little bit more is gonna like really make this full coverage for me. So let's blend this out real quick. And that blended out without an issue. Now let's see this side. Again, it's blending out without an issue. So it's a good option to have. It's a great option to have. Buildable coverage. We love buildable coverage. All right, and they're both sides done. Am I going to set this? I don't know. However, I don't think so. Based on what it looks like right now, I don't think I'm gonna set this. I think that it is definitely setting to that natural matte finish. And if I set it, it might make it dry. You know what I mean? Which we don't want. We don't want dry. We want flexible matte, which is what this is promising. So I'm just gonna leave it alone. But before I jump off camera one last time and finish my makeup for the day, I'm gonna zoom you guys in really nice and close so that you can see exactly what this concealer looks like after initial application. All right, so here we are up close and personal. This is the color corrected side, of course. And this is the side with just the concealer. And do you see what I mean? Very similar, if not identical, amount of coverage. All right, so I'm gonna jump off camera one last time, finish the rest of my makeup, like I said, and I will be right back. All right, I am back. Makeup is on. We are ready for the day. So far, so good. I did not set this concealer. Did not set it. This is a type of concealer that I know you guys have run into at least once, if not more, where you put it on and you have to make that decision, like, do I set it or do I not set it with a powder? And you look up close and you're like, definitely not gonna set this. Like, if I set this, it is gonna look super dry. That's how I felt with this particular concealer. Although it is flexible and it is like a natural matte finish, it's still matte. And so I knew that if I set it, it just was gonna look really dry all day long. But I was looking for any kind of settling in between my fine lines. And so far, so good. So I didn't set it with a powder, but I did set my face with my all-nighter. I really love this stuff. I'm like running super low. I need to repurchase that one for sure. But I did set my face with that. So definitely helps out the under eye area, but without making it look too incredibly dry. So far so good. It is currently 9:44 in the morning. You guys know the drill. I'm gonna wear this all day long and of course come back halfway through the day to show you guys what the concealer looks like under natural lighting. Both sides look really good. Both sides look really concealed. Let's see how they wear throughout the day. So I will see you back here in a few hours for a quick midday check-in. All right, I am back for a quick midday check-in. It is currently 2:34, which means I've had this on now for, what is that? 5 hours? Yes, 5 hours. And this is what we are looking like under the eyes. Let me get closer to the light. Still looks pretty good, although I prefer the side that I color corrected. I feel like I am starting to see a little bit of darkness kind of peek through my left side that I did not color correct. However, the right side still looks pretty solid. So hasn't settled into fine lines, hasn't really moved around or anything like that. So still looking pretty good. I will continue to wear this for at least another 4 hours, maybe another 5, just depending on how the day goes. So I will see you back here at the end of the day for my final check-in to see what we look like under the eyes at the end of the day. All right, I am back for my final end of day check-in. It is currently 7:53, which means that I've had this on now for almost 11 hours, 10 plus hours, I believe, like 10 and a half, something like that. Long day, okay? It's been a long day. So before I get into what I think about this concealer after wearing it for an entire day, I'm going to zoom you guys in one last time so that you can get a good up close look at the under eye area after a full day of wear. All right, here it is. As a reminder, this is the color corrected side. And this is the side that we did not color correct. All right, so with that out of the way, what do I think about this concealer? I actually really like it. I really like it, but I really like it with a color corrector underneath it. I just feel like this side looks a little bit smoother. It stayed in place. It stayed concealed the entire day. It did not move around. It did not break up. It didn't do anything that I didn't want it to. This side, high in coverage, for sure, and we didn't need a color corrector to get to this amount of coverage. However, I just feel like now that it's been 10 plus hours, it doesn't look as smooth and as nice as the right side does. Just for that reason, do I prefer it this way than this way? However, it is a really nice natural matte formula. It stays in place, it doesn't move around, it doesn't break up. I mean, for the most part, both under eye areas still look very much concealed, okay? Very high level of coverage on its own with a color corrector. Personally, I would prefer it with a color corrector. That's how I'm gonna use it from here on out. But with a color corrector, without a color corrector, you're gonna get really nice amount of coverage. The only thing that I would advise against is setting it with a powder, especially if you have a lot of fine lines underneath the eyes. I feel like this by itself looks great. You do not need to set it with a powder for it to stay in place. I would, however, recommend that you set with a setting spray instead. keeps it in place, keeps everything locked in all day. Everything looks nice and light and more natural than it otherwise would with a setting powder placed on top. I feel like setting powders with matte concealers, especially now at my age when, you know, I am trying to just blur out fine lines a little bit, especially under the eyes, they just don't pair well when putting them with a powder, at least not on me, not so much anymore. Depending on the concealer, I guess I should say that. Depending on the concealer, if I set it with a powder, it just ends up looking more dry. The under eye area looks very crepey, and it just ends up also looking very heavy. However, with this one, you don't need a powder. You don't need to set with a powder. I only set with a setting spray for the day, and this is what I was left with at the end of the night. So I'm very, very happy with my purchase. Highly recommend. 30 shades is a decent shade range. I do, however, recommend that you go into a Sephora when they have it, or an Ulta Beauty now that they have it, and actually swatch everything in person, because this is 3C, which is supposed to be a medium, cool, rosy tone. And I feel like I'm getting a lot more yellow than cool. But that's just me. You guys let me know. What do you think about the shade? I feel like I made the right choice with 3C, and I'm going to stick with 3C, and it looks great, especially on top of my Becca and Smashbox color correctors. So that completes today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. I truly hope that you enjoyed today's product review and that you found it helpful. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss out on future videos. And also don't forget to follow me over on Instagram, where I absolutely love to interact with you guys. As always, take care, and I will see you all in my next video. Mwah! Bye.